Hello everyone, this is your Ice Dragon Rayron coming to you with another video. Today we're going to be reviewing one of my favorite animes during the 90s. This is Beast Wars Transformers. Now this is going to be the first episode of the first season. The title of this is Beast Wars Part 1, directed by Ian Pearson, written by Bob Forward. The original air date of this episode was September 16th, 1996. So we're going to take a look at 8 frames that I have selected, kind of the most memorable frames from this particular episode. So the first frame I've got for you guys doesn't count towards the 8, but is the introduction to Beast Wars. Now, in the 90s, we had some very epic TV shows that had some great entries into an episode. We had Digimon, we had Pokemon, we had Sailor Moon, we had Dragon Ball Z, we had the X-Men, and I would definitely categorize as Beast Wars as having one of those great entries. As we move on to our next scene here. Oops, and I'll go this way. There we go. So we got the introduction, and then in this particular screen, we've got these two famous ships, in my opinion. So these ships are going to be iconic throughout the rest of all of the seasons of Beast Wars. The ship on the top that looks like a beetle is the Predacon ship, ran by Megatron and his Predacons. And on the bottom, you have the scout ship of the Maximals by Optimus Primal. So they come through transwarp space and they're just duking it out. Megatron has stolen an artifact from the Maximals, and Optimus's ship was the only one that could intercept Megatron. So now you see him in this dogfight over this unknown planet. And as they crash land, they fight each other, they crash land, and the Maximals have to jettison all their escape pods, and now it's orbiting this particular planet. So they both crash, and they realize that there's a special resource called Energon. Now, in their basic robotic forms, they cannot sustain the robotic form for too long because the Energon fields that is inhabiting this planet, it's too much for them, and they'll basically short circuit and die. So what they have to do is they have to scan for local life forms, so that way they can use the local life forms to help them repair the robotic cells and protect them from the Energon. And then I love this scene here because you get a scene of the Maximals scanning for life forms, and then you have the Predacons searching for life forms as well. So this is the first kind of frame that we get for one of my favorite Maximals, and this is Rat Trap. So Rat Trap takes the form of a rat, and that's why he uses his name. And then you have Cheetor, Rhinox, and you have Optimus Prime as well. So they get all of their forms. You got a Rhino, you got a Gorilla, you've got the rat, obviously, and then you've got the Cheetah, otherwise known as Cheetor. All right, and then on the opposite side, you have the Predacons. So you've got, let's see if I can remember this. So here we've got Dinobot, you've got Megatron, you've got Waspinator, you've got Pterosaur, you've got Scorponok, and if I'm forgetting any of the other ones, I do apologize, but those ones I can remember top of my head. But they grab their forms as well. You've got Triceratops, not Triceratops, you got, oh man, I can't remember Pterosaur's, I can't remember now. The name of the flying dinosaur. Can't remember top of my head. But anyways, and so you got Scorponok is basically a scorpion. You got Waspinator, which is basically a wasp. Dinobot here, which is a, oh my goodness, I cannot. You got T-Rex for Megatron, and I can't remember for the life of me Dinobot Raptor. But anyways, they take their forms, and then Dinobot has an issue with Megatron. They are looking for Energon, and they've got this mysterious golden disc that they have stolen, essentially. And they're trying to find Earth. Now, what's interesting about this, and I'll talk about this more when we get into the later season, so I kind of want to build up to it, but I already know what all this is about. But you got this golden disc, and they're looking for Earth. Now, if you guys look at the episode and deposit onto the actual golden disc. This golden disc is basically what we sent with the Voyager program onto a satellite to communicate to any other life forms that are out there the location of Earth. So Dinobot is looking for, or the Predacons are looking for Earth for some unknown reason. They want to find Energon first and foremost. That's the primary reason. So Dinobot has a fight with Megatron, and obviously Dinobot loses, and so he scampers off in his own merry way. But Megatron doesn't care. That's not Earth. It's a planet that's filled with Energon, and that's what they want to do, to field their Predacons to come back to conquer the galaxy. Alright, so as they continue to explore the unknown planet, Cheetor basically finds some other cheetahs to go and essentially play with, run with, whatever you want to call it. But then he runs into trouble. So you can see at the bottom right hand corner, Cheetor has gotten himself into a little bit of a bind. He gets attacked by Waspinator, which is the flying bee that you see in the top left-hand corner. You also got Scorponok, you see Megatron, and you see Pterosaur in the upper left-hand corner. And then you've got Rhinox, Rat Trap, and Optimus. So this is kind of the first frame that you see, basically the first initiation fight of this new war between the Maximals and the Predacons. So they have the little spiel. Megatron does Megatron things. And essentially, Cheetor gets a trigger finger happy and shoots Megatron, and then they have this great big battle. And then we start to see their transformation. So I don't know what it was about the 90s, but when it comes to transforming, it always was a spectacular, musical, kind of cliche-ish event, which is interesting to say the least, because you had this kind of in Pokemon a little bit, you had it in Digimon, you had it in Beast Wars, you definitely had it in Sailor Moon, and it's like, it's just this weird thing that you've always gone through some sort of transformational process. So for the Predacons here, they would say terrorize to transform from their beast form to their robotic form, and then the Maximals you had maximize. So now we get to see for the very first time their robotic forms. And this is our first look at Megatron. And then you eventually get to see all the other Predacons and Maximals transform. And then we also get to see basically Optimal Optimus transform as well. So the battle ensues. They exchange gunfire. And you get the epic 90s music that you typically get. And then this is kind of the first scene that we see after the battle. The Maximals won only kind of by default, because what happened was the Predacons, again, spoilers, I should have said that at the very beginning of my episode here, and I'll try to make sure I do that for the next one. But essentially, the Predacons had to retreat because they were in robotic form for too long, and so the Energon was screwing up their robotic form, so they had to go to beast mode, so that way they can repair and protect themselves from the Energon. This was kind of, so this particular scene, the Maximals won, but they were also kind of heavily injured. So it was going to take them several hours to repair when they're in this beast form. But what's kind of interesting during the battle is that Rat Trap disobeys Optimus Prime's orders to provide cover fire. And Rat Trap is that character that's very snarky, very anti-leader-ish orders type of a robot. So this scene was kind of a little bit of an important life lesson, I think. I didn't realize it until I watched it again just recently. But it's like, Optimus basically scorns Rat Trap, saying that, when he gives an order, he would do it for himself as well, as a good leader should. So they eventually settled their qualms and they're off their merry way. But it was definitely one of those memorable scenes that, you start to see the chemistry of the characters and how unique each one of the characters are finally coming together. Alright, and looks like my apologies, have to go back this way. Okay, and then our final scene here is they're getting ready to go back to base, and then they got this narrow pathway, And long and behold, there was one Predacon that was not at the fight, and that was Dinobot. So Dinobot was waiting for the Maximals to come back to their base because what he wanted to do was he wanted to challenge the leader of the Maximals, and he wanted to join them on one condition. He wanted to do it as leader. So he challenges our leader of the Maximals, Optimus Prime, to a duel, and the winner obviously will lead the Maximals. And that is how episode 1 ends. So it ends on a cliffhanger. One thing that this show tend to do, which I'd never liked, was that they kind of gave you a sneak peek into the next episode, but the next episode they kind of spoil it. So yeah, it's one of those things that 90s cartoons used to do. But that was basically episode 1. It basically showed us the base setup, showed us the characters, showed us kind of the inner qualms that are going on, and I loved it. It is kind of corny with the graphics, but the storyline's pretty good, and I would highly recommend it. If you guys like Transformers, I would recommend it. Again, some people don't like it because it was more with animals versus vehicles and everything else that was used in all the other Transformers series. But this was unique. And as we go through this series, it does something that, again, minor spoilers here, but it does something that modern day cartoons and TV shows and movies don't do anymore, and that is respect the lore, respect where previous shows and cartoons have come from. Because when this came out in '96, you already had the G1 Transformers, with the Samurai from Optimus Prime, and then the gun form of Megatron, and you had the Transformers movies come out in the '80s. This actually pays a lot of respect to that. So that's all I'm going to say to that. And that's why I love this show so much, because I love Gen 1 Transformers. I may do an episodic review of those as well. But I want to start off with Beast Wars because this is what I grew up with. This was my introduction into the Transformers universe. So with that, guys, thank you so much for listening to my kind of quick snapshot Cliff Notes version of episode 1 of Beast Wars. I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you on the next video.